recording. I can see
Okay.
it.
Hi, everybody. So tonight I have my sweet friend Jan. She is coming on and she's super, super sweet and just has taken the time out of her day to share some really great, valuable information with us. We're going to talk about personal care products and the dangers and just awareness of things that we can avoid to be healthier. So, and Jan is just really knowledgeable. She loves makeup. She loves personal care products. And so she's just the best person to do this. So we're going to do, we might do a couple series, but we're going to start out with some simple basic questions and we'll go from there. And if you guys want to comment on this video, if you have any questions as you're watching it, you can always leave the questions in the comments, and then we can do another video based on feedback we get. So with that, we're going to start. So the first question is, why should we even be concerned about personal care products and their ingredients?
Yeah, so it's a big question. And it's funny, I was looking up some statistics, so I'm going to just read this quick little blurb because I think it really sums it up. So the average woman uses 12 personal care products a day, which is roughly 168 chemicals, which is a lot. But like for me, I definitely am not the average. I'm probably above average. And if you just start paying attention to how many products you use, I mean, that's like toothpaste, face wash, moisturizer, serum, shampoo, conditioner, shave cream, whatever it is in the morning, just as you're getting ready. If you shower and get ready and think about count throughout the day when you wash your hands with the soap, if you're cleaning, what products you come in contact with, all the things. So anyway, the average American woman uses 12. The average man uses 6, which statistically is about 85 chemical ingredients per day.
Wow.
So altogether, 12.2 million adults are exposed to ingredients that are considered known carcinogens every single day. But they say that in small amounts, they're considered safe. But if you really think about that, like, even though we may only use a tiny bit of moisturizer and a quarter size of shampoo, you're using that daily. Men are showering sometimes 2 times a day. And, it's everything. And it's compounded, even though it may be safe in small quantities. I mean, the skin is our largest organ. It absorbs everything you slather and lather on it. And so, thinking about putting known carcinogens, known ingredients that are toxic on the body is just crazy. It's just, It is really a problem. So,
well, and I was thinking while you were saying that in small amounts, well, it's not really small amounts anymore if you're using 12, 14, 15, 16 products every day.
Exactly. So, it's if you're looking to boost your family's health and immune, like looking at personal care products is a huge step because it's, something that you can kind of start to change and control, even if it's just removing a few toxic items or trying to make products a little bit less toxic. It makes a big difference. And it's, as and as your, group knows and is learning, the environment alone is giving us enough things that we can't control, the breathing, the air quality and stuff. So it's something really big to think about.
Yeah. Well, and it's something we can control little by little, find things and keep swapping them out, and small changes over time, then you've made a really big change. So
exactly,
it's just getting used to the new things that you use, I guess. So,
yeah, absolutely.
So as a consumer, we assume the FDA is making sure our personal care products are safe, but is this an accurate assumption?
No. So unfortunately, the FDA has not updated the regulations on personal care products in the United States since 1938. So,
wow.
Since 1938. So as you can imagine, the the industry, it just in the last 10 years has grown. I mean, it's like a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the standards and the amount of funding and the FDA, like what they're allowed to do is so limited, to the point where they actually they do not check products.
So like all the makeups and the lotions, like when I'm going down the Walmart aisle, like I'm assuming in my mind, like, oh, this is on the aisle, this is on the shelf because it's safe and tested or whatever, but that is not a safe assumption to be assuming.
No, they actually do not. I think 0.2%. So like out of 3 million products in the United States, only 300 of them have actually been examined by the FDA. So the FDA does require that companies list the ingredients on the package, but they don't actually test to make sure that the company is actually, you know, that there's not other things included, or that the levels that they're saying they're at are accurate. You know, there's just no testing. So basically what the FDA does, the only thing that they are allowed to do right now is if there is a lot of adverse reactions. This really will blow your mind. So, you know, anybody can come up with a product. Any company can come up with a product and package it, label it, list the ingredients, you know, whatever they want.
Which, by the way, like,
right.
I mean, that's usually a really long list with big, huge words that I can't even pronounce. Most people can't. And I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Right.
Anyway.
And then you just assume that at least if it's written on there, that it's accurate, right? Like you look at that big giant list and you're like, okay, well, I don't know what any of that means, but that's what's in it. And the thing is without a checks and balances system, there's really no way as a consumer to know that even though it says it has A, B, C, D, E, and F, you know, unless, and we can get into this a little bit later, but, you know, some companies are actually showing batch, like lab tests and things, like they're going on their own and providing the proof of what's in it. But overall, you know, they have to list it, but it's not actually checked. So then what happens is, so anybody can put anything up on the market, you know, like it can go up. Johnson & Johnson can put something on the market. And then as long as the ingredients listed on the package are not any of the known no-nos in the United States, which in the United States, there's only 11 chemicals that are not allowed to be put in personal care products. And in other countries like Europe, for example, they're much more advanced and they've updated a lot more recently than 1938. So they have 1,300 banned chemicals in Europe. So
1,500 versus, would you say 11?
11.
That's so crazy.
Right. So then what happens is, as the nation as a whole, say there's like a lot of people that start having problems like, you know, skin irritation or rashes, or their hair starts falling out. You know, they make, as a consumer, you make a complaint to the company, right? Like, hey, my hair's falling out, or I got a rash, or whatever. So these companies it's up to them. It's at their discretion whether or not they decide to report that to the FDA. So, you know.
So it's really like reporting it.
They're
not going to tell on themselves, essentially.
No, I mean, why would nobody, you know, they're not going to do that. So, but okay. So then say the FDA, this is the only time the FDA will really do an investigation. So if the FDA catches wind, you know, like there's a lot of people posting on the internet or blogs or things like that, and it somehow comes to their attention that, hey, this particular product or this brand is creating a lot of problems for people, then they'll go and they'll do the testing on it. Okay. So here's where it gets really crazy. So like, for example, I'll use, this is a crazy example. So Claire's, you know, Claire's and Justice, the stores that really promote and target teen girls. They had some makeup out that, when the FDA went in and did the testing, it came back that there was actually asbestos in the product. And these are like, you know, powdered foundations, bronzers, eyeshadows, all targeted to, you know, teen girls. So then once the FDA discovers that, they still cannot go to the company and demand that they take those products off the shelf. They do not have the authority to even say, hey, your product has asbestos, which is a known carcinogen that causes lung cancer and respiratory issues, and I'm sure a whole host of other things.
And they're just powdering it on their face and breathing that in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so then they go, the FDA can go to the company and they can advise them, hey, this is toxic. You need to take this off. Well, we recommend you take this off the shelf. And then the company has a choice. They don't have to, they can. And so, for example, in this specific situation with Justice and Claire's, Justice said, oh, okay, we'll retract that from, the shelves. Well, I mean, clearly that is the right thing to do. But Claire's they didn't want to. They didn't want to pull it. So then the only thing the FDA can do is put out a public service announcement saying, hey, we found this in this product. But, if you're not like tuned in.
Well, first of all, if you don't even realize that some of this stuff potentially could be toxic to begin with, you're not going to get the memo. Like,
right.
I mean, I wouldn't. No. I know when I was younger, like I grew up, I loved Claire's. Like, you go in and do all these testers and it was fun. And I didn't even realize and I'm not blaming my parents at all. It's just, I don't know, it just wasn't really a thing. Like I didn't realize that shampoo and different lotions and things could be toxic. It just wasn't even
right.
my radar.
Well, and you really think that if it's being sold in the United States, I mean, we're such an advanced country, and you always hear about them with foods and stuff like that, and it's just not that way with the personal care products. And unfortunately, everybody uses them. You're putting things on your babies when they're born, you're absorbing all those things in your personal care products when you're pregnant. And so it's almost like, it's gotten so out of control and it's so not regulated that it really is. I mean, so even in that specific case, if the FDA does become aware of something by slim chance that they actually are notified of something and do a test on it, then they find that it's extremely toxic, they still can't even demand that the company take it down, which is just mind-blowing on so many levels.
So mental note about Claire's in your mind.
Yeah, right.
If you're going there, if you have a daughter that wants to shop there and do all these testers, so mental note, but shop at your own risk, I guess, really.
Hopefully, yeah. And Claire's, they're just one of the ones that got caught.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's you don't really know what else.
Right. And I mean, how many other companies have I think it really got a lot of notoriety too, because they refused to take it down, and so, I mean, how many other companies have gotten notified and are like, oh, we'll retract that. Then it just kind of is a hush hush thing. It would be interesting to see. I don't think there's a website you can go to see so yeah. Crazy, right?
Yeah, you're really educating us a lot, because I didn't know a lot about this, and I'm sure a lot of other people. I mean, it's not something I really would have thought about. So, okay. So what happens with a product what happens with a product coming to the market or a new ingredient? Let's say Revlon is making some new product, and what happens to that?
So with it's a very similar thing. So with new ingredients, say somebody has out some new anti-aging skincare ingredient that they created in their lab. It's got some sort of nanotechnology, all this stuff. So they don't have to actually have that tested before it can be put out onto the shelves. So, again, it's that same kind of thing where somebody in a lab comes up with this idea and they package it, they market it, they sell it. And then so who knows if these new ingredients, which kind of links back to the whole issue of think about how far our technology has come since 1938. And the fact that our list of no's hasn't been, and there's people coming out with new ingredients and new methods and things all the time, but nobody's actually looking at those to see if they're safe. So, and then, they go on the market, they get out on the shelves, and it starts that whole thing where only if enough adverse reactions are coming back. And, you have to think about all the things that have been put out that are silent, that we don't even know are affecting us because it's only been 10 years or 3 years or whatever,
Yeah,
And
that's true.
so there's nobody testing them to be like, oh, this super long new ingredient, the name that nobody will ever remember, like who knows? It's hard because as a consumer, and it can get very overwhelming. And that's one thing I don't want to do is because for a while, I mean, the more you learn, the more you're like, I don't want to wash my hair. I don't want to.
Yeah. And it feels like isolate. It just feels like you're pushed into a corner and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do.
You walk down the aisle at the store and you're like, oh, I can't.
And then you buy nothing because it's so
you're too scared. So, you don't need to take it to that extreme. I think you can start slow and, just start to increase your knowledge and start to weed out certain things. I mean, luckily for us, like the European Union, they're way more advanced. So, if you look for products, at least that are approved in Europe, then they're going to be loads better than ones here. It's kind of one way.
Because that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what are just some like basic? Oh, that's okay. Like let's just say you're hearing this and you're like, all right, well, I'd like to make some simple swaps, like for my family, for myself, like, but it's really overwhelming because I can't even all the words on the back of those bottles are like 25 characters long. So what do you even look for? Like just to start?
So I'll just do 3 to start with that I think are pretty easy because, even though the FDA is not very advanced, I mean, people are catching on and, you see more and more like clean beauty, this and on the front of bottles, you'll see things like no phthalates, no parabens, fragrance free, this huge list, no petroleum. And you're like, well, why do I care? But I think so the 3 I'm going to say, I think are easier because a lot of products actually will say on the front of the bottle, no parabens, no phthalates, and no fragrance. And so I'll kind of touch on those 3 and why those are 3 that you want to avoid. And then, like you were saying, we can grow on this and add more in. But so parabens, they are an inexpensive preservative. So, they used to be in everything. And in the last couple of years, more and more people have been learning and catching on and removing them from products. So like you can get shampoos and stuff at the drugstore or the grocery store that don't have parabens. But so what a paraben is a preservative, an inexpensive preservative. It's found in all like types of personal care products, cleaning products, baby products. And what they are is it's like chemical with estrogen-like properties. So it kind of resembles estrogen abnormalities. So it can create estrogen I can't even say that word.
Abnormalities.
Thank you. And I made notes so I wouldn't forget, but they're involved. So estrogen abnormalities are involved in the development of breast cancer. And in a 2012 study, they found 99% of malignant breast cancer tumors contain 1 to 5 different types of parabens. So it is really an endocrine disruptor, and especially for women. So it's something that's not needed. That's the thing. There are so many products now out on the market that you'll see no parabens, and they're fantastic. Like, it's not like you're missing the paraben. Maybe your shelf life, maybe you can't keep something for more than a year. Like, you should probably throw it away if you haven't used stuff. But, so, okay. The next one is phthalates. And I can put in the notes how to spell these 3. But so phthalates is another preservative. It's similar to parabens. But unlike parabens, phthalates do not mimic hormone effects. Instead, studies have shown adverse effects on the male reproductive system. So like decreased sperm count, testicular cell destruction, and thyroid, or like your related, oh my gosh, irregularities. So those are a lot of people. You see that not only is cancer on the rise, but people are having a really hard time having babies. And, they're having a lot of, you see that, I feel like you see that more and more. And so these are some things that you can eliminate, both men and women. It's not just affecting women. So as women, we have to tell our husbands, you can't use that anymore. Because, so,
and on that note, I think the absolute hardest product to switch over to non-toxic is deodorant.
Yeah. So,
and that could be like a whole separate video, but like it's just hard because we're constantly clogging up our lymphatic system with, antiperspirants and aluminum and all that. And it's like, it just like has to detox and go through all that. Yeah. So that's a hard one, but
aluminum is, and it's really interesting. I'll just, when I was looking for deodorant for my son, who's 11, I was like, on the front of all the women's deodorants, it says no aluminum or, natural or whatever, and then when I was looking at the men's deodorants, none of them were really saying that. And I was like, they don't really care about men, with their aluminum. So then I looked on the back of the men's deodorants, and the majority of them never had antiperspirants. Isn't that weird? So like they didn't ever contain aluminum to begin with. A lot of the men's ones, like Old Spice and like the ones that you hear about. I mean, they have their own issues with fragrance and stuff, but I thought that was interesting. Like women, I guess men don't really care if they sweat as much. They just want the smell to not be there. I don't know. They didn't have they didn't have that aspect in as many of their deodorants as women.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here and we're going over all this. I think part 2 of this should really just be like going over like some, just when you go to the grocery store, like some basic products that you can swap out. I think that would be really helpful to people.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm sure people's minds are spinning like, what about this one? What about,
Right. Yeah. So. And we can definitely work on that and come up with a list of just affordable things that you can find at any store that are better than, say, other things that you're finding at the same store. We should work on that. So the third one is to cut out fragrance wherever you can. I mean, it is one of those things where, so this is kind of funny. So the FDA requires that fragrance be written on all containers, but fragrance is a blanket statement, and it can include, there are thousands of chemicals that can go into fragrance. So they don't actually have to list out the individual chemicals that they use to make up their fragrance. They can just write fragrance on there.
Yeah, and because it's like, what does that even mean?
It could mean hundreds of things. So there are companies, like as consumers, that are doing things with like, essential oils or more natural fragrance, or there are some companies that have even caught on to the fact that consumers are more and more looking for safe fragrance. And so they will actually disclose, maybe on the bottle, it doesn't say what the breakdown is for their fragrance, but if you go to their website, you can actually see all the different ingredients that went into it. And to me, as a consumer, like, I don't know what most of those ingredients mean, but I feel like if companies if they're going to the extent to list out what it is, then, it's a little
probably care a little bit.
They probably care a little bit more and are trying a little harder than, say, the company that is like Old Spice. I mean, since we mentioned that one, just throwing in all the whatever makes up that nice man smell, or these excellent perfumes or candles, or and they're so anywhere you can cut that out is better. And I know we all love it. So even if you just cut out, like, maybe you take fragrance out of your hand soap in your bathroom, or you take it out of like your lotion, but then you still use a perfume, like you can kind of,
because your lotion, you're putting all over your skin, that's absorbing it, whereas your perfume, maybe you could just spray it on your shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
A little bit less.
it's a little bit better. And that's what I'm still like having a hard time giving up any sort of like all scent. So I will do like you just said with a perfume and just put it on my clothing and not on my actual skin. And then it actually stays longer anyway.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like the scent doesn't go away as fast. So yeah, so those are the three, well, four really, because you touched on aluminum, and that is a good one. If you can cut that out, and that can be kind of in another video too, because there are things you can do to make your natural deodorants work better. And I have tried a lot of natural deodorants, and I do have a
it
few
can be
that
an investment, you know, when you're trying to switch over, it really can be.
Yeah.
With deodorant, I feel like.
With everything.
Well, it's shampoo too sometimes. There's certain brands where it's like, that did not work.
Yeah. Right. Like, you know, like you finally found a good skincare system that's helping you, and, you know, but
a long time.
It
takes a long time sometimes to work through that.
It does. It does.
So would you say that like you have to give, like on that topic, like you have to give up quality, and like to have clean products, you have to give up quality?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. You know, it's so cool because even though our FDA is really behind the times, as consumers, so many people have caught on to this that, like, you know, 5 years ago, I think it was a lot more discouraging to try to switch over. But now it's like things are so much better, and they've kind of perfected the, you know, removing things and replacing them with more natural things, like different preservatives and things like that, and finding ways to get around it. And it's kind of like the guesswork is starting to go away, and the products are actually starting to become just as good or better. And what I have found is, like, my skin, for example, likes not having all those chemicals. So like a lot of things I think work better. And like, I'll show you, for example, like makeup was one that I was like, I don't know. But like this is I'll just swatch a couple of these little guys. So this is like a clean brand. Oh gosh, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but you know, this is like an eyeshadow.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty.
It's great. And I have lots of, here's a matte out of that same one, but you know, like I have lots of eyeshadows that
it like has color. It's not like it's barely there. Yeah.
Right. And they last all day, you know, and it's like, and that's the same with everything. Like you can find very, very good clean or cleaner products. And I think as a consumer, you know, a lot of companies have already done the work for you, as far as they've been on this clean bandwagon for a while. And so, you know, just looking for companies in general that are more transparent with what they're putting in their products, or like, you know, they may have their own regulations. So even though the United States only has 11 on the no list, they may have 1,200 or 14 or 1,500. Like Beautycounter, they have 1,500 that they have banned from all their products. You know, they went above and beyond the European Union. And there are other companies that have done that. You know, things that you can find even at the drugstore, like Well People. And if you are trying to look for websites that are helpful, just for, you know, you can go to like the what is it? I just drew a blank on the EWG. What does that stand for?
Oh, EWG.org.
The Environmental Working Group. Yeah. Their website is pretty good. You know, if you go under different categories, you can just search by. And another one that's really pretty good is the Think Dirty app. And then there's a website that I use a lot called Skin Charisma. And I can list those out and send them to you. But Skin Charisma is kind of a cool one, because if it's a product that like the EWG hasn't already covered, or has listed, like if you can get to a website that has the ingredient breakdown on a product, you can copy it and paste it into Skin Charisma's ingredient analyzer and paste it in, and it will actually just come up and tell you like, this is a fungal acne trigger, or this is an allergen, or this is bad for oily skin or dry skin or sensitive skin. And it goes through that giant list of ingredients and just kind of one by one tells you, and then it will break it down by like a percentage bar at the top, like 92% of this is in the green, which is kind of like a, good. And then it'll show you how many percent of the ingredients are in the yellow and red. So you can kind of get, you can really
an idea.
See. Yeah. There's a lot of websites that have already done a lot of the work for us, which is nice because it is overwhelming,
Yeah. Well, and one thing I will say about that is like, I find that it's kind of like anything else. Like, you kind of get in a habit of buying your favorites all the time. Like, and so it's like, once you do that, like major legwork at the beginning, like to switch out your soap for your family or your shampoos or whatever, then it's just kind of like second nature. It's like, oh, that's the one I always get. And you pick it up and throw it in the cart. You don't even have to really think about it. Unless you're like, unless you're like wanting to look for something specific, but
or if you
want to try, but
and sometimes, another thing, like, and I don't want to get in a rabbit hole of this, but like with laundry detergent, for example, I still haven't found one that I just absolutely love, like to death. So I will do like once a week, I'll wash the clothes in like my old detergent. And then the rest of the week I'll use like clean detergent, so like every so often I'm doing like the harsher ones, but it's just about making slightly better choices, whenever you can. And like, I don't want, so, even when I'm playing around with things, if I can't fully replace it, I'm trying to eliminate whenever possible. And I think as a consumer, that's all that we can do. We can just try our best, but you have to keep the husband happy, and like nobody wants to have like dirt on their clothes or stinky armpits or whatever it is, so it's like, okay, and it's harder to convince like children that they shouldn't use like that Axe hair gel and like, the Axe body spray. It's hard to be like, no, that's really bad for you, dude. Because they're like, I don't care. I'm like trying to.
And you can see them walk, like you can smell them like 5 miles away. It's like, whoa, they use their Axe. I did ban that stuff from my house years ago before I ever even knew about fragrance because I couldn't stand the smell. It was because it's really powerful. I'm getting a headache. I wonder why.
Well, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's really, really helpful. And you gave us some really great resources. And I think, it would be good to do a second video and we can just maybe
I do too.
Talk about some basic products that are easy and affordable and,
Yes, I think that would be good. And then if, like Holly was saying in the beginning, if anybody has any like specific questions or categories that you'd really like us to look deeper at, I would be happy to do that. So you just, put it in the comments and Holly and I can kind of tackle it together and try to figure out ways to help people.
Trust me, Jan is like a wealth of knowledge in that mind of hers when it comes to products. So you just ask away and I can guarantee you she will probably have an answer for you. So
I do. I have kind of a problem, a product problem.
It's good because now you can share it with people and it's very helpful.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I've tried a lot. A lot. And anytime there's something new, I'm like, oh, I need to try that. And like, so I do have a lot of, good and bad that I have found.
Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your night and coming on here and sharing all this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes. All right. Well, have a good night and we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right.
Bye. Thanks, Holly.
Yep.
Bye.
Thanks, Jan.